I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, staring at a phone that feels heavier than it should. It's late afternoon, the sun filtering through the thin curtains of the vacation rental we rented for our family getaway. My wife, Lisa, and I had been planning this trip for months. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to reconnect before I popped the question. I was nervous, sure, but excited too, thinking about how her eyes would sparkle when I finally asked her to be my wife. We had just finished lunch, the kids running around outside with their cousins, laughter echoing through the house. I pulled out my phone to snap a few pictures of the kids playing on the porch. That's when I saw the messages. I didn't mean to look. Hell, I was just trying to get a good shot of my nephew swinging. But the screen was unlocked and the notifications were blinking out of sight. I scrolled and what I saw made my stomach drop like a rock. There were texts flirty, intimate, secretive. My wife and her best friend, Mark, my best friend too, were talking like lovers. Damn near. Confessing. The messages weren't just innocent banter. They were planning things, sneaking around like thieves. I saw a message from her saying, "Tonight's the night. Just make sure nobody suspects." I could almost hear her voice whispering in my ear, the betrayal so sharp it made my head spin. I sat there frozen, holding the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. My ears started to ring. My mind raced back to every moment I'd ever trusted her, every time she'd been kind, caring, the way she looked at me when I proposed. All of it felt like a lie now. That little voice in my head kept repeating, "How long has this been going on? How could I not see it?" I knew I had to confront her, but I needed proof. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my palms slick with sweat. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. We shared everything, our dreams, our fears, and now I was staring at proof she'd been sneaking off with someone else, right in the middle of our family vacation. I looked out the window, the ocean shimmering in the distance, and felt the weight of it settle over my chest. That evening I watched her from the corner of the room, her smile so genuine while she chatted with Mark by the pool. It was all a show. I saw her glance at him, the way her eyes lingered longer than they should. I knew she'd been lying to me all along. The pieces clicked into place, those late nights, the weird calls, the way she'd suddenly become so secretive. All the signs I'd ignored because I didn't want to believe that my best friend, someone I trusted with my life, could be so damn full of shit. I kept telling myself I'd be rational, that maybe I was overreacting, but I was, not anymore. I was furious, betrayed, and feeling pretty damn stupid for not seeing the cracks earlier. Now I had the evidence, something real, undeniable, and I knew what I had to do. That night I sat on the edge of my bed, jaw clenched tight. My mind was racing through a plan. I wasn't going to let this slide. No, I was going to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. I had to be clever, precise. I couldn't just blow up and scream, although I wanted to. I needed to make sure they felt the full weight of their betrayal. As I lay there in the dark, I organized my thoughts. I'd gather all their messages, all their plans, and have a little chat, one that would make them understand just how badly they'd screwed me over. They thought they were clever, sneaking around behind my back. Not a chance. I was going to turn their own game against them. Tomorrow, I was going to set the trap. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. It was time to find out exactly how deep their lies went, and then I'd decide what to do with the pieces. I looked at the ceiling, trying to steady my breathing. My stomach was tied in knots, but my mind was clear. No more hiding, no more pretending. They'd see just how serious I was. The question now was, what would I do once I had them cornered? That was still to come. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let this slide. Not without a fight. The hours that followed felt like forever. I stayed awake, replaying every moment from the trip, every glance, every touch I'd missed. I kept thinking about how I was going to confront her, but I knew I needed something more concrete, something undeniable. So, after everyone had gone to bed and the house was quiet, I snuck into the bedroom where Lisa was sleeping, pretending to rest like everything was normal. But I was. I was wide awake, eyes darting around, searching for any sign or clue I might have missed. That's when I remembered her phone. I had caught her with it earlier, and I knew she'd be paranoid about it now. I waited a few minutes, then gently, quietly, I reached over and grabbed it from the bedside table. Her phone was unlocked, She'd left it open, probably thinking nobody would come near it during the night. My fingers trembled as I unlocked it, trying to keep calm. I knew I shouldn't be doing this, invading her privacy, but I had no choice. I needed proof. I scrolled through her messages again, this time with more purpose. I saw new texts, more intimate, more revealing. They confirmed everything I'd suspected. She and Mark had been planning this for weeks. The way they talked, like they were in their own secret world. Mark had even sent her a picture of his car, a detail I'd never seen before. That's when I saw the picture of her with her head tilted, laughing into her phone. An innocent shot, right? No, it was a setup. That picture was taken moments before they sneaked away together. I felt my stomach twist. My hands clenched into fists. I knew I had enough to confront her now. I needed to be calm, precise. I closed her phone slowly, slipping it back onto the table. The weight of betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. How could she do this? How could the woman I loved, the woman I was about to ask to marry me, be cheating on me with my best friend? I lay there for a long while, voice trembling with anger and hurt. I kept thinking about what I'd do, how I'd face her tomorrow. She'd probably deny everything, lie her way out of it, but I'd be ready. I was already planning my next move, the one that would make her regret every lie, every stolen moment. Morning came faster than I wanted. The sun was shining through the window, casting a bright glow that felt like a slap in the face. I got up, stretching my stiff limbs, trying to shake off the adrenaline. I knew I couldn't confront her right away, not yet. I needed to set the stage to make sure she realized I knew the truth. It was going to be a slow game, a careful one. I didn't want her to suspect I'd caught her, not yet. Breakfast was tense. Everyone was cheerful, oblivious, but I couldn't stomach the fake niceties. I watched her, studied her responses. She looked at me with that sweet smile, the one that made my stomach turn. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her pay, but I kept my composure. Instead, I said, "Lisa, can I talk to you for a second, alone?" She looked surprised but nodded, following me outside to the patio. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know everything," I said softly, but with enough edge that she couldn't dismiss it. Her eyes widened just a little, the flicker of guilt maybe. The messages, the sneaking around. I saw the proof. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Her face paled. She stammered, "It's not what it looks like." "Oh, I think it is." I cut her off, voice rising just enough to carry. "You've been lying to me, cheating on me with Mark. Do you want to tell me what the hell is going on?" She broke down then, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was stupid, okay? It didn't mean anything. It was just a stupid mistake." "Save it," I said coldly. "That's what they all say, but I've got the messages, Lisa. And I saw the way you looked at him yesterday. You were sneaking around, planning. You're just like him, selfish, careless." Her sobs grew louder. I felt my fists tight. I was so angry I could taste the bile rising in my throat. I could have yelled, could have broken something, but I knew I needed to stay in control. "I want my stuff out of here," I said finally. "And I want you to leave. Don't come back. Don't call. We're done." Her eyes locked onto mine, full of pain. "Please, can we talk? Just give me a chance to explain." "No," I cut her off sharply. "Nothing to explain. You chose him, not me, and I'll make sure Mark regrets ever crossing that line." As I walked away from her, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her. The game was over, but the damage was done. The only question that lingered now, as I packed a bag and left the house, was how deep this betrayal truly went, and if I'd ever trust again. I drove away from the house with the engine roaring in my ears, a tight knot lodged deep in my stomach. The adrenaline from the confrontation was wearing off, replaced by a cold, hollow feeling that crept up my spine. I kept replaying her tears, her desperate pleas. I'd never seen her like that before, and part of me wanted to believe her, to think maybe she'd come to her senses. But deep down, I knew better. That kind of regret, that kind of remorse, didn't fix what she'd done. I pulled into a quiet parking lot, the kind you find near a small park or a strip mall, and turned off the engine. The world outside was calm, but inside my mind was anything but. I stared at the steering wheel, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I pulled out the phone I'd saved earlier, her messages and Mark, all neatly screenshot and saved in a secure folder. I needed to be sure I had everything, just in case she tried to deny it later. I scrolled through the messages again. The more I looked, the clearer it became how long this had been going on. Weeks, maybe months. They'd been sneaking away during family dinners, exchanging secret emojis, even planning future trips without me. The pain hit me again, sharp and relentless. I trusted her with everything, and she'd been lying straight to my face, building a secret world with him. As I sat there, a plan started to take shape. I had to be smart. I didn't want to just storm back and scream or burn everything to the ground, although that urge was tempting. No, I needed to hit where it hurt. They thought they'd gotten away with it, but I was going to make sure they paid on my terms. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a little notebook I kept for work. It was old-fashioned, but I liked writing things down, helps me think. I jotted down a few notes, the dates, the locations, the little details that could matter later. I also had an idea to send Mark a message, not directly, but in a way he'd understand. Something to make him realize I knew everything, that I was coming for him. I'd make sure they knew I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I took a deep breath, feeling my chest tighten. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity, showing her that her betrayal had consequences. I wasn't going to be just some guy she toyed with while she had her fun. No, I was going to turn this into something she'd regret for a long time. I started my car again, feeling the engine hum beneath me. The next step was clear. I'd go back to the house, but not to stay. I'd find a way to leave a message, something cold, calculated, something that would say, "I know everything and I'm not going to let this slide." Once I was gone, I'd arrange for her to see it, catch her in the act of realizing I'd already caught her. The entire drive was silent except for the hum of the road and the pounding of my heart. I thought about her, about Mark, what they'd been doing all this time, how long they'd planned it. It made me sick, but it also fueled my resolve. If they thought they'd hurt me and walk away, they had another thing coming. I was done playing the fool. When I finally parked outside the house again, I looked at it for a moment. An ordinary house, but to me it felt like a prison. Not anymore. I got out, took a deep breath, and shoved my hands in my pockets. I was going to leave something behind, something that would tell her I was onto her, that I was angry and determined. I needed her to feel the sting, the cold shock of betrayal, even if just for a moment. I slipped my phone into the mailbox slot along with a short note. "Enjoy your new secret life. It's over now." Simple, cold, final. I knew she'd find it once she woke up. Then I turned and walked away, not looking back. As I reached my car, I finally allowed my shoulders to sag. A mix of exhaustion and relief washing over me. I was starting to see a way out of this mess, but I also knew things would never go back to how they were. One way or another, everything had changed forever, and I'd be damned if I let her or Mark decide how I moved forward. Next, I planned my next move carefully. I had what I needed now, the proof, the plan, the resolve. All I had to do was wait for her to realize she'd lost control, and then I'd take the final step. The first thing I did after leaving the house was to find a quiet with no cameras or nosy baristas. I needed to focus, to get my thoughts in order. I sat at a corner table, ordered a coffee I didn't really want, and pulled out the phone I'd saved everything on. The evidence was too valuable to just leave lying around. I had to make sure it was secure. I backed up all the messages to a cloud folder, wiped my hard copy, and made a plan for how I'd use this information. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without preparing. So I drafted a message, a calm, calculated text that I'd send once I was ready to make my move. I wanted her to know I was serious, that I had everything she'd ever tried to hide. The message would say something like, "I know everything, the truth is out. Don't bother trying to lie your way out of it anymore." I didn't hit send yet, I wanted just the right moment. While I sat there, I kept thinking about Mark, my best friend. I trusted him with my life, with my secrets. And he'd betrayed me in the worst way. I made a mental note. I needed to do something about him too, but not yet. First, I had to deal with Lisa. I knew she'd be expecting me to come back angry, maybe even confront her in person. But I wasn't ready for that, not yet. I wanted her to feel the cold silence, the weight of knowing I'd uncovered her lies. So I thought I'd send her the message, then wait. Let her stew in her guilt, her panic. The plan was simple. I'd send the message when she was least expecting it, maybe late at night when she thought I was still blind, still naive. I'd craft a message that was blunt but not threatening, just enough to shake her up. I wanted her to realize that her secret life was over, that I knew everything. When she checked her phone and saw the message, she'd be forced to face the truth. In the meantime, I'd keep safe. Change my passwords, delete some of my own traces just in case. I'd also reach out to a lawyer just to know what my options were if I decided to take this further. But for now, I needed to stay calm, stay cold. As I finished my coffee, I stared out the window at the busy street, people rushing past, oblivious to what was happening behind closed doors. That's when I saw her. The image of her walking out of the house that morning flashed in my mind. She looked so innocent, so unaware that I knew her secrets now. That's what hurt the most, how easily she had played her part, how she'd fooled me into thinking she was the woman I loved. I pulled out my phone again and looked at her contact. I hesitated for a second, then block her. Number, I needed space, clarity. I didn't want to be tempted to call her to start begging or pleading. That wouldn't do. I'd wait, and when the moment felt right, I'd send that message. But a small voice in my head kept saying, what if she tries to deny everything? What if she flips the script and blames you? That's when I realized I had to be prepared for all possibilities. I'd make a list of what I'd say if she called me, what I'd do if she tried to manipulate me again. I'd stay firm. I was done playing nice. My stomach twisted again, but I kept my hand steady on the table. This was only the beginning. I could feel the storm inside me brewing, but I knew I had to keep a cool head. Because once I hit send, everything would change, and I'd finally get to see if she truly understood what she'd thrown away. As the clock ticked closer to evening, I pulled out my phone one last time. The message was ready. I pressed send, then slid the phone into my pocket. I looked out at the city lights flickering on, the chaos going on around me, and felt a strange sense of calm. This wasn't the end, not yet, but it was definitely the start of something I wouldn't back down from. I had already crossed the line, there was no turning back now. The message had been sent, and I could feel a strange combination of relief and anticipation. The waiting game had begun. I stayed in that for a little while longer, watching the world go by, trying to ignore the pounding in my chest. Every second felt like a minute. I was expecting her to panic, to come at me with a flood of apologies or worse, denial. But what I didn't expect was silence. No reply that night. No frantic calls, no desperate texts, just the quiet hum of the city and my own racing thoughts. I kept checking my phone, expecting something, anything. But it stayed stubbornly silent. That first night I could feel my nerves fraying. Was she ignoring me? Had she already started trying to spin her story? Or was she just stunned into silence? The next morning, I woke up early and decided I had to be prepared for anything. I knew her routine, her habits, her weaknesses. I started to think about what I should do if she responded, if she tried to deny it, or worse, manipulate me into forgiving her. I wasn't going to let her. That's when I made a decision. I was going to confront her face to face, but on my terms. I messaged her just a simple, direct text. We need to talk today, be ready. Her reply came an hour later. It was short but unsettling. Can't. I need time. Time, that's all she said. No explanation, no apology, just a cold, distant word. That made my stomach sink. She was playing her cards, trying to keep me at arm's length. I knew I had to be more strategic now. If she wanted to hide, I'd make her regret it. I arranged to meet her secretly at a park nearby, somewhere private but public enough to feel safe. The plan was to confront her calmly, but with enough authority to push her into a corner. I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar heat rising in my cheeks. This wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about making her understand she'd lost control. When she arrived, she looked nervous, more than I'd expected. Her eyes kept darting around, avoiding mine. I didn't waste time. Lisa, I started, voice steady but sharp. You thought you could get away with this, that I'd never find out, right? She looked down, then bit her lip. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. You didn't mean for it, I repeated coldly. You were sneaking around behind my back, planning trips with Mark, exchanging messages. What the hell was I supposed to think? Her shoulders shook as tears welled up again. I was stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. Please just listen. No, I cut her off. You lied to me, betrayed everything we had, and I'm supposed to just forgive that? Sorry, no, not anymore. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I held up my hand. I already know enough, I said, and I'm done. You can keep your lies, your apologies. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. She started to speak again, voice trembling, but I turned away. I had no more words left. I'd made my decision. This wasn't a moment for tears or pleas. It was the end of our chapter. Walking back to my car, I felt a strange sense of calm mixed with rage. I'd done everything I could. The evidence was clear. She'd chosen Mark over me, and now I was finally free. But the worst was yet to come. I knew I had to settle the score with Mark, and I wasn't going to do that peacefully. That night, I sat alone, reflecting on everything. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd taken back my power. She tried to make me the fool, but I was the one in control now. And I was going to make sure they both paid for what they'd done. Next step, that was simple. I had to plan my revenge, subtle but effective. I'd find out how deep Mark's betrayal went, what secrets he held, and use that to make him regret ever crossing me. But first, I needed to stay patient, stay quiet. Because once I made my move, there'd be no going back. And I was ready for that. The silence after my confrontation felt like calm before a storm. I went quiet, keeping my distance from Lisa and Mark, watching, waiting. I didn't want to act impulsively. I had to be strategic, think several steps ahead. My mind kept circling back to the evidence I'd gathered, the messages I'd saved, and the way Mark had acted so confidently, so sure that he'd get away with it. That confidence was his weakness now. Over the next few days, I dug deeper into Mark's digital life. I started to piece together more of his secrets, texts, social media posts, even a few emails I found through a third-party app I'd used to monitor his activity. What I uncovered wasn't just about the affair. It was about Mark's reckless tendency to underestimate how vulnerable he'd made himself. He'd been careless enough to leave behind footprints that I could follow. One evening, I arranged a meeting with one of Mark's acquaintances, a mutual friend who was close enough to have some insight. I played it cool, acting like I was just catching up, but inside I was calculating my next move. I learned about Mark's upcoming trip for work, details about his schedule, his weak spots. I was building my plan step by step. The night I decided to strike, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and rage. I'd come this far, and I was finally going to make Mark realize he'd messed with the wrong person. I crafted a message, cold and calculated, and sent it to him. An anonymous note reminding him that I knew everything, that I had his secrets, and that I was watching. I made sure it was vague enough to keep him guessing, but threatening enough to make him sweat. The next day, Mark was visibly rattled. I saw it in the way he avoided eye contact, the way his hands trembled when he thought no one was looking. That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't need to call him out face to face. He had to feel me closing in like a predator. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to reach out to me, but I refused to respond. I didn't want her to think I was still playing her game. It was better if she felt I'd truly vanished, disappeared from her life. That's when I sent her a final message. It's over. Don't bother trying to contact me again. You made your choice. Now live with it. That moment, seeing her realize I was serious, was satisfying. The tears, the desperation, they all confirmed I'd won the psychological battle. I'd stripped her of her false sense of control, and I'd made her understand that her lies had consequences. For the final act, I made sure Mark knew I wasn't bluffing. I arranged for the anonymous message to be delivered to his phone one last time with explicit instructions. Stop lying. You know what you did, or it's going to get worse. I wanted him to understand that I had leverage, that I had the upper hand. I didn't need to hurt him physically. I just needed him to know I was in control. The fallout was swift. Mark's reputation took a hit among his friends once the truth started leaking out. His confidence evaporated, replaced by paranoia. Lisa, on her end, disappeared from our social circle altogether. I heard she moved away, trying to escape the shame. Good. That was exactly what I wanted, to make her feel the full weight of her betrayal, to see her lose everything she thought she had. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. Some might say revenge is petty, or that I overreacted, but I disagree. She betrayed me, lied to my face, and nearly destroyed what we had. Mark did the same, thinking he was invincible because he was my best friend. I didn't want apologies or tears. I wanted them to feel the consequences of their actions. In the end, I took back my dignity. I handed over the keys to the house, packed up my things, and walked out for good. I made sure Lisa got her stuff, and I left her with a final note. You chose him over me. That was your mistake. I'm better off without you. I handed her the keys, turned my back, and walked away. No more regrets. No more second chances. I learned the hard way that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it changes you. And sometimes the best way to heal is to take control, make them feel the pain they inflicted, and move forward stronger than before. Because in the end, no one can betray you unless you let them.